everyone, thanks for watching the CB vlog here on YouTube. You know what to do if you want to help us out. Just go down and hit subscribe, leave a cool comment. That is all very helpful. If you want to get involved directly, you can go to patreon.com/commandersbrew and become a patron and get in on our Discord, help us brew our decks, give us card suggestions, and also there's other perks as well. So check us out, patreon.com/commandersbrew. For that. But without further ado, we're going to start talking about our main topic today, which it's a good one. We're gonna get into it. Yeah. So today's topic is counterfeit magic cards.
Ooh, counterfeits. Ones that came off a huge metal roller, just like sheets and sheets of black loti, just like flying off it in a basement somewhere.
Yeah, some dank, dirty basement by the criminal element.
Someone had to like go to Wizards and like steal the like press for the Black Lotus.
Yeah, like the what are they called? Plates, like the plates or whatever.
Yeah,
like,
the plates of a Black Lotus.
Well, you know, unfortunately, it's not that it's not that hard anymore. It seems that you can just grab an image off the internet and make a counterfeit magic card these days.
Oh, okay.
And I wanted to talk specifically because I don't know about y'all, but on like whenever I'm cruising Instagram, I notice I'm getting a lot of ads for Wish.
Yeah.
Which is like, it's basically like an Amazon website, basically just buying stuff. But it's, I don't know if it's based in China, but there's a lot of Chinese retailers there.
It's a big distributor. Like whoever runs Wish gets stuff super cheap, sells it to you for a little bit more than super cheap.
Yes.
But they just press a button and like someone sends it to you and they make 50 cents or something.
Yeah. So, and I don't want to like unfairly say like everything there is from China or anything, but there's a lot of like, it's a very international thing, I think, to say the least. So,
could you say most of it is garbage?
I don't know because I only ever get advertised the like fake magic cards.
Okay,
ever.
The counterfeits.
Yeah. That's the only thing that I ever see advertised from Wish. Except actually, I think I scrolled on one of the pictures once, and it was like one of those old timey plague masks, and I was like, "What? No, that's not gonna help."
I don't know, Wish. I don't know.
The timing is right, Wish, but I don't think it's actually gonna do anything. Yeah. So, anyways, I'm getting a lot of ads for this, and it struck me that it's no longer at all difficult for people to order these cards.
No.
Like there was a time, even just a few years ago, like maybe even a year or two ago, where if you wanted to order that like pack of fake magic cards, that like 100 and whatever it is cards, and they're all like vintage staples and like just the reserve list stuff, it's like you had to like kind of dig for it. You had to look hard for it, and you had to like know where you were looking, and it was still kind of sketchy. And it was like, am I like, if I made this order, I'm putting together what for whatever reason you have, if you were to actually do that, like, were you going to get them? Were you going to get your cards? Like, it was very skeezy and sketchy. Whereas now it's like very mainstream.
Yeah.
So it's so easy. So I think, and it seems to be this like hush hush, like it's kind of like this taboo thing to talk about.
Well, is it fair to say like, well, so how do you define the difference between counterfeits and proxies? Because the line is fine, right?
Yes.
There's a gray area there.
Well, that's what I wanted to talk about. So, the idea that these counterfeiters, because they are counterfeiters, they're trying to make them as real looking as possible.
Yeah.
They're using the copyrighted art, all of that stuff that they're not supposed to use. And they're saying, like, they'll always refer to it as a proxy. And they will never refer to it as, like, whatever, obviously. Counterfeits. Yeah. Why would, that would blow up their whole business, really, even though we know what's going on. The fact that it's so easy now, and I like I said, I don't think we talk about it enough, kind of. So there's a couple things. So the idea of proxies versus counterfeits is important because I think that there are, like, places where you are, I think, okay to use these cards, but there's a real moral, like, ethical gray area / not really even that gray about actually getting them. like ordering them. Do you know what I mean? Like
Right.
supporting the people who are trying to like subvert, you know, the
Yes.
people who make the game that we actually like, right?
Right, right. I've heard of stories of people like just being like, hey, that's can anyone give me the art files for the full vintage cube? I'm gonna proxy it up and just like or counterfeit it. I'm gonna counterfeit the
Yeah.
full vintage cube so I can play vintage cube at home and give wizards 0 and give counterfeiters a couple $100.
Yeah. So that, yeah, exactly, right? So like there's tons of places to get proxies. There's tons of like legit ways to do proxies and all that kind of stuff. And proxies are like supposed to be placeholders, whatever you want to say. But
Yeah, if you own the card,
yeah.
but you're like, I don't want to keep moving it between decks. This is the whole basis of the staple system, right? It's like, I don't want to move my doubling season between the 4 decks, so I'll put a proxy in each of the 4 decks. And if anyone wants, like, I've got my real one with me, I can be like, okay, I'll swap it out. So you're not looking at the proxy on the battlefield.
So I have this question for you, okay?
Yeah.
So let's just take the like question of whether or not we should be supporting counterfeiters, which I think is I think everyone pretty much understands that the answer to that is probably is no, right? We shouldn't be supporting people who are actually trying to actively subvert the game and like basically take money away. So just take that for a second and put that aside. Let's say we have these cards in our hands. Is it okay to use them for anything Magic related? Obviously, tournaments it is actually not allowed, right? Like we're not these.
Are you
types
talking
of,
proxies or counter?
I'm talking these counterfeit cards. So like,
Sure.
If I like, let's say I brought an EDH deck, and I had a couple of these cards in.
Yeah.
What's your reaction? And like the person is like honest about it.
We're at an LGS. It's casual. It's not a sanctioned thing. We're just playing for funsies.
Yeah.
And is it obviously counterfeit?
I'd say like it's close enough where you're like, is this real? Like this guy's got a crazy expensive card in the deck, and you're like, that looks a bit off. And then he's like, yeah, it's one of those counterfeits.
Well, okay. I mean, first of all, I don't know if I'd have the guts to say like, hey, is this real? Is this a real Bayou? Like, I might not.
Well, because I'll tell you, I've seen them in real life. You can tell they're fake. Like,
okay,
you can tell that these cards are fake for sure. They don't have the right sizing. They look more like playing cards. Anyways.
Yeah. Okay. So if it was obviously fake to me, but it was meant to look like the real card, like I had the original art and everything, I'd be like, oh boy, what an interesting question.
It's tough, isn't it?
It's tough because I do know of groups that play at LGSs and they love CEDH and they're just like, yeah, proxy whatever you want. We can't play real CEDH that is competitive EDH without full sets of duels, full sets of shocks, because you're not competing. We would rather have competitive games, and we don't want the barrier to be money.
Yeah.
They've still spent a couple $100 on their deck. Like if everything is a counterfeit, that's one thing.
Yeah, that's
But
one
if you
thing.
got like 1 or 2 cards, I think I'd be like, hey man, you do you.
I mean, if you're
like
talking
I'm not gonna
lands,
narc on you.
Yeah, if you're talking about lands, you're definitely not talking about 1 or 2 cards. Like if you're gonna go that extra mile, so that's okay. That's one thing. So for like something where it's like a game like that, like Commander or something, right?
Yeah.
What about if it's like in a cube? What if I've got a cube and I've got let's say it's half. Like I wanted those. Like I want to make a vintage cube, like you were saying. But I've got, I've ordered about, let's say I've ordered maybe a third of the cards. I've put together a third of the cards, but 2/3 of those cards are full fakes. How do you feel about that?
Oh boy, because I mean,
we're talking like reserved list stuff. Like we're talking about Black Lotus. We're talking about Ancestral Recall, right?
Yeah, I mean, so it's interesting because my opinion is colored by the fact that I know there are custom cards in a lot of cubes, cards that do not exist in Magic, but they're templated like it. They find a little piece of art to use. Like, I want this card for my cube, but it doesn't exist. I've given it a name or something like that.
I've never run across that, but that's interesting.
That's like not real, but that's fine. I would never say different. That's bad.
Yeah,
And if you go as far as Black Lotus, I would also probably say like, yeah, man, like put that in your cube. I nobody owns a Black Lotus for real. I mean, I know that's not true, but like I know there are people who own Black Lotuses, but like there are way more people who want to play vintage cubes than people who own Black Lotuses.
Yeah. Or
So-
what about, yeah, and you already kind of touched on it, vintage in and of itself. Like, what if you really were like, hey, I want to try and play vintage, and I know some friends who are doing the same thing, or I know this group of people that gets together and plays vintage. They don't care. It's like, what do you do? You know
So
what I mean?
I
Let's say
think-
and you want to go the extra mile. You don't want to just write it all on basic lands. You know, you don't want to have Sharpie on basic
Yeah.
lands. It makes it difficult to read and stuff.
I mean, right, and so here's how the spectrum goes.
Yeah,
Right.
okay.
I want to play vintage with my vintage pals, but I simply cannot afford it.
Yeah.
My vintage pals who are not playing sanctioned tournaments, we just meet and we play vintage at this guy's house.
Or maybe you have a little private tournament. You know, something like that. Yeah, yeah.
Whatever.
Yeah.
But like, and I'm writing everything on basic lands because they said that was allowed.
Yeah, yeah.
So what's the no? I don't think anyone has a problem with people writing Black Lotus on a basic
No,
land
of course
and
not.
putting it in their cube to try what that's like.
For sure.
But all of a sudden, if it looks real, then the discussion shouldn't change. Like, it's the same as writing it on basic island. And the only time it changes is when you're trying to fool people into thinking that it's real. Everyone knows that this is not a real this real single sleeved Black Lotus in
Yeah.
mint condition in a regular like a green single sleeve. Yeah, I know that's not a real
Yeah.
Black Lotus. So you don't have I know this isn't an issue. So I don't know. I think it's all attitude. It's all what are you trying to do with these cards? Are you trying
Yes.
to trick people?
Yes.
Or you just want to play the game?
Yes. Now, obviously, like getting your hands on these cards and like trying to fool someone into buying them for any amount of money is garbage. But anyone good thing is like anyone who is in that sort of business where they're actually paying real money for these cards is, like I said, you're going to be able to tell for the most part. So if we're doing this for, if a person is getting their hands on these cards and they're using them for like places where
Cash.
or they're using them for cubes or a casual, whatever, and by casual I mean you're talking about getting like Mana Crypt and dual lands, so it's like EDH
I mean,
is
casual in stakes.
Yes, exactly. You're using it for those things, so then and these are not cards that you could have even afforded, like truly you could not have afforded, like truly I will never buy an original dual land the way it is currently, right? Like they're never getting reprinted, so I will literally never buy one of those cards ever. So
I mean, I hit the lottery.
maybe
I'm
sure,
buying one.
maybe I hit the lottery, I get to buy one. But like
But see, okay,
but this is the thing.
isn't
So like
this-
if you were never going to buy one, then where is the problem? And this is just I'm putting it out there because I want this discussion.
Sure.
Where's the problem in buying these cards from people?
Okay, but there's another layer that just occurred to me that we haven't addressed yet. We talked about, are you trying to subvert the game, right? We hinted at like if you counterfeit a bunch, but no Wizards will never sell another Black Lotus.
Yes.
They will never make any more money off of any Black Lotuses ever. The only people who stand to profit or lose from that are people who already collect them and are selling them to other collectors. It's like trading art now,
Yeah.
right? Like once you or like selling a car, selling a used car or whatever. The Ford doesn't make any money when I sell my used car to somebody. The government takes a little slice, but that's just tax, right? Like that's not like the original people they've already earned their money. They've already earned the thing from it. So if anything, I mean, maybe this is a bit of an oversimplification, but if I'm still playing the game, that's good for them. And if I fake a couple of cards, I'm going to use the word fake to not pick a side between proxy or counterfeit.
Counterfeit, right?
If I'm going to fake a couple cards to do so, I probably also bought a few cards. Like I mean, because I'm buying packs, I'm buying product, I'm playing the digital content. So like they're making money off me, even whether or not I counterfeit things.
And there's the thing of I guess when it comes, especially like vintage Power 9 type stuff, where people are trading and selling and trading those things for a lot of money. There's a lot of money involved. Those people are very invested in making sure that these are not counterfeit cards, and they are investing in the ways to recognize that. Now I know that counterfeiters are getting better and better, and Wizards,
Yes.
rightfully so, is making it harder to counterfeit. That's great. I think that's a good thing. And that should continue, and I hope that those people never get like ripped off or anything like that. That's brutal. But those are the only people who stand to really lose. Again, not to minimize it, but those are the people stand to lose. Like Wizards isn't losing from like you said, like they don't make money off of Black Lotus, right? They don't make money off of Ancestor Recall outside of the Vintage Cube and like at a set like Vintage Masters, which happens online,
Like
right?
online.
And even
Sure.
then, you like you say, if I own the physical copy, that doesn't mean I'm never playing the Vintage Cube. That doesn't mean I'm never gonna buy Vintage Masters, like especially if I'm a person who wants to play online. But anyway, listen, I'm not. So I'm glad we're talking about this. I'm not having this discussion to try and convince people to buy counterfeit cards. I just wanted to see like where it is that people stand. And I especially want to know like where it is our audience stands on it. Personally, I think that if you were looking to put together something like a Vintage Cube, or play something where a lot of reserved list cards are in play, like that's where you pretty much had to have it, where it's like vintage.
CEDH.
Yeah, sure. And again, cubes really are the ones where I'm like, oh, I think I'm okay with it for cubes. Yeah, I think it's like I would rather not support those people, but if I really wanted to put this type of cube together, it's something I definitely would think about. And so finally, the final part of this discussion is how much of this black market that's being created is the fault of the reserve list. Now, obviously, I know this also. I just want to say this too before we sort of talk about this for one more second. They're not only counterfeiting reserve list stuff. They're not only counterfeiting vintage staples. They are counterfeiting $10 commander cards too, right?
Yeah.
And they're counterfeiting current standard stuff. I think if you're buying counterfeits for standard and commander, like especially current commander stuff, I think you can find those cards. I think you find ways to get those. Like we're budget players and we find our ways to make those accessible to us, without supporting counterfeiters, basically, right? Like
Yeah.
I'd rather support a game store over, because that is also another people who lose out, especially in this type of transaction. I'd much rather support a game store or even like Wizards directly buying packs or whatever, participating in drafts, than supporting counterfeiters for that type of stuff. But when it's like stuff that you literally cannot buy, where are people supposed to go for this type of thing,
Yeah.
So how much of that is the reserve, again, speaking specifically about the stuff that's on the reserve list, like why does this reserve list exist anymore?
Oh boy. I mean,
Huge other
this
topic.
is
So
huge other topic. Yeah.
Specifically for the counterfeit though, like I do feel like, that's it would barely even be a thing if it wasn't for that existing. So I think I don't think you can. I don't know. I don't think you can really come down too hard on the people who are like, I want like good looking Black Lotus and Power 9 stuff in my cube, man. I'm gonna take a flyer. I'm gonna buy this thing on Wish for $20, and I'm gonna see what the cards look like when they get here.
Yeah. It's interesting.
I don't think
Yeah.
you should support counterfeiters overall. I will say that.
No.
I'm just saying I don't think you can really blame people who want to do it to the point where they're actually going to order something again for something like a vintage cube.
I still
or
want to
whatever.
keep the distinction separate. Counterfeiters, I will define that as people who are trying to fool people,
Right.
who are trying to pass off fakes as real cards. So, of course, never support counterfeiters. So then, yeah, but if you want to get a couple of fakes made,
Yeah, like where you're. That's kind of interesting actually. So like, where does it go? Where's the line go where it's like, okay, I'm ordering these cards. I know they look nothing like the real thing.
yeah,
Like I'm ordering these ones that I've looked at and they look crappy, but I don't care for my deck, or I don't care for my cube. You know what I mean? That's more closer to proxies. It's strange. It's a tough distinction to make. I just kind of wanted to have a talk about it because I think people are buying these cards, man. That's the other thing. I know people are buying these cards.
I know people are. Like, I read Reddit. I subscribe to a lot of Reddit subreddits about Magic and the related topics, and I follow a proxy one just to read how that's going. And there's posts all the time of people being like, here, I got this, and I used it in a tournament, and one guy asked to check a thing, but he looked real close, and then he gave it back, and it was fine. So you can trust this guy as a counterfeiter. He's a good counterfeiter. I made it through a tournament with these cards. I'm just like, whoa.
Yikes.
The nuts on that guy to like try to like actually like that's a whole other world, right? Like now you're like a bad guy. Now you're like a villain. Right? If you're just in your basement and you're like, it's fun, I wanna cast a Black Lotus and channel Fireball. Like I want to do that once in my life. I don't care. Like I'll never like really do it with the real cards. But if I got this counterfeit, sure, why not? Like that's so fun. But it is like a whole different game when you're just going to like real tournaments and like you're stealing from people. You're stealing prizes from people who are working hard to honestly get it. That's the problem.
Yeah,
that's
agreed.
the problem.
Agreed. So like, yeah, there's definitely a dark, like sort of bad side to this, and then there's the kind of lighter side where it's like, I just want to do this thing that's fun, and like I don't want to hurt anyone. So anyways, get the discussion rolling. What are people thinking? Do you think it's okay if you were to order any of these things off of Wish and play it in your Commander deck? Is it only okay in cubes? Let us know. Let us know on Twitter. Let us know in the YouTube comments as well. But that's going to be it for this one. We will check you guys later. Thanks for watching here. Again, leave a comment and subscribe if you haven't already. We'll see you guys next time.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for watching. If you love what we're doing, consider supporting the show by going to patreon.com/commandersbrew.
And if you want to get any of the cards from our deck list, go to our TCG Player affiliate link below.
That helps us out too, and for a free way to help us out, consider sharing the show with some friends. Like and subscribe, add a comment or two.
See you later.
Bye.